Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and also Madam Ranking Member and Honorable Cass Sunstein. Pleasure for you to be here today. One of my concerns is we've had many people come here, especially from the Office of Advocacy, and testify that their greatest concern is that they're getting backdoored by the Federal Government as far as implementing a lot of new regulations. One of the things that I'm concerned about is approximately 4,300 regulatory actions that are waiting in the pipeline right now. And 219 of those are considered economically significant, meaning they can have more than $100 million of impact on our private sector, especially our small businesses. The number one thing that when we go back and we talk to the people down on the ground is the regulatory environment, and especially when you talk to small banks, community banks, with Dodd-Frank and a lot of the means by which they've been caught in there. Can you really tell us and give us an understanding of what the Federal Government is doing to not allow the agencies to do, I call it behavior modification through regulation. What they couldn't get through the legislative process, it seems they're doing through the regulatory process. Can you kind of lay out the plan that you all have?
Great. The first point is that anything that is done by the executive branch has to comport with the law and within the boundaries that you set out. Article 1, that's legislative power in a Congress of the United States. That's the first substantive sentence in the Constitution. The executive
but let me interrupt you. I'll give you a great example. Numeric nutrient criteria, which is something that the EPA sent down. I don't think anyone up here, there's no law that, complies with that. And that's something that the EPA has instituted. And as a matter of fact, in the state of Florida, there's a lawsuit that's being brought against the state when it comes to that.
Okay. The big numeric criteria rule from EPA was numeric limits for stormwater. And that, I don't know if you saw, EPA actually withdrew it. In a way that produced a great deal of applause from the national home builders, saying this is a great thing for the economy, for people who want to buy homes and for people who build homes. It was completely withdrawn.
But not for farmers.
No, it was completely withdrawn for everybody. Well, the stormwater rule is completely withdrawn.
Okay.
So I can give you a bunch of other examples of cases where we're all working together to address the problem that you mentioned. Winslow Sargent, who's the chief counsel at SBA, is a close partner. His February 2010 report emphasizes the big impact and the growing impact that SBA has been having on federal rulemaking. It applauds the trend line. And since then, or contemporaneous to then, a number of things have happened. You may have noticed just a few days ago, the Department of Labor withdrew its very controversial fiduciary rule. That was a rule that got a lot of concern from members of the House and also from the small business community. That's been withdrawn. They're going to repropose that. The Department of Labor also had a rule involving musculoskeletal disorders, or new reporting rule, where the Office of Advocacy and the small business community were both very troubled. They didn't know what it meant. What is a musculoskeletal disorder? And they thought that it would be burdensome. Are they going to have to hire doctors to test all of their employees who have back pain? That one was withdrawn, and the Department of Labor is working well with SBA. There was a noise interpretation from OSHA that the small business community was very concerned about just this year. OSHA withdrew that one also. So the number of rules that are being carefully reconsidered I've given you 4 examples just now. I could multiply that by 3 if you like, in response to the current economic situation and the very clear direction the President has given me and all of us to make sure that what we're doing on the regulatory side is consistent with the economic recovery. If there are other areas where we aren't being sufficiently responsive, gosh, I'd love to hear it, because this is the time.
Okay. The last question that follows along with that, right now it looks like we're on a track to have full-time regulatory employees expected to reach a level of 291,676. Is there a way that we can freeze the hiring of new regulatory employees?
Well, that's your lane, and mine is the implementation job. I work at the Office of Management and Budget, but the budget, the B side, is not something that I'm directly involved in. I can tell you, you referred to the 219 economically significant rules, so-called, in the pipeline. The number's a little confusing because these are things that are under general contemplation by the agencies. They're not in the pipeline. They're not pending. They're not proposed. They're kind of like it's as if there's a law that one of you is thinking about, and you give a heads up to the 219 aren't going to see the light of day unless they can pass very careful scrutiny in terms of the new direction the President's given us this year.
Thank you very much. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.